everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 16 and compare it against the iPhone 6s and see which particular iPhone is a better one for you. Now, I will probably tell you in almost every single way you can imagine, definitely in my personal opinion, something like the iPhone 16 is going to be a way better device than the iPhone 6s. So that is without a doubt something that's very, very important to keep in mind. And I would hate for you to go and get a phone like the iPhone 6s thinking that it's even remotely, similar, because in every single way you can imagine, the iPhone 6s definitely is a, just not as good of a phone as something like the iPhone, as the iPhone 16. So keep that in mind. Regardless of that though, if you want to pick up some of these phones that I would recommend buying this year, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there and you can help support the channel at the exact same time. Now, starting off with the outside of both these phones, the iPhone 6s, which came out back in 2016, the iPhone 6s, which came out back in 2015 on the front side of this particular phone, is giving us a 4.7-inch Retina HD panel. Now, this type of panel is pretty outdated, as you probably would have imagined. It's definitely not the best looking panel anymore. It was a good looking panel when it first came out probably, but it really isn't like that anymore. So I would hate for you to go and get this phone thinking it's still nice. It has the home button on the front, big bezels on the front and just throughout the phone itself. And that's kind of it. You're getting Touch ID 2 on the front, but that's kind of all you're getting. It's a very somewhat outdated panel. It just doesn't look that nice anymore. But that's kind of what happens when you're getting these types of devices. The iPhone 16, on the other hand, way better looking phone. This particular phone is giving you a larger 6.1-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. So this type of panel, in my personal opinion, is very nice. It is wonderful to have a panel like this. And I do think, in my personal opinion, this is a really big asset for it, right? You're able to go through and get a phone on the, iPhone 16 that's going to be giving you a way better display. It's going to look beautiful. It's going to perform better. And I do think this is, without a doubt, a very important thing to keep in mind. With that being said, though, still with something like the 6s, it's still okay, but the 16 is way better, as you could probably imagine. On top of that, another big thing to keep in mind, with the iPhone 16 and the 6s, the build qualities, they both feel like pretty premium phones. The 16 obviously feels more premium. You're getting flat sides all throughout the iPhone 16. The 6s sides are completely all pretty much, curved, which is still pretty nice. But I would still say, no matter which way you're going to go, definitely in almost every single way you can imagine, something like the iPhone 16, I would probably say, is probably going to be the better one in a majority of ways. And I do think, like I said before, that is going to be a very important thing to keep in mind throughout this whole entire video. On top of that, another very big thing to keep in mind here is the fact that with the iPhone 16, it's giving you frosted glass back that looks and feels very, very good, right? I like that a lot about that type of device. With something like the iPhone 6s, this one's giving you just the aluminum back, single camera setup on the back side of that one, dual camera setup on the back side of the, iPhone 16. You're getting the MagSafe capability, wireless charging, things like that on the iPhone 16. The 6s really doesn't have too much going on for it, right? It's a very outdated phone, but that's just kind of what happens when you're getting these types of devices. So I think that is, without a doubt, a very big thing to keep in mind here. And if you're going to go through and pick up a newer phone, it's just going to be a significantly better device in almost every single way you can imagine. So from that side, I think that kind of covers it up there for the most part. Now, on top of that, another big thing I kind of want to throw in here as well is the fact that with the iPhone 16, and this is going to be one of those devices that is just going to be a more expensive device. So it's a more expensive phone, as it should be, because it is the newer one. So when you're getting a more expensive phone, that could mean that for some people, it might be way more expensive than they probably want to spend money on. So with that being said, if you're wanting a more budget device, you might look at something like a 6s and think that it is a better device for the majority of people. But I will tell you, in my personal opinion, like I've stated before, it just doesn't make any sense to go and buy something like a 6s, even if it's like $10, unless you're getting it for like a collector's item or something like that. It genuinely just doesn't make too much sense to buy a device like that, in my personal opinion. Now, when it comes down to the cameras, the iPhone 6s was giving you a single 12 megapixel main camera on the backside, and it was an interesting camera. You're getting a 1x zoom inside of that lens. But what was fascinating about that camera was it was the first one to bring 4K at 30. And I actually do think for a lot of people, they're probably not even filming in 4K at 30, but that was still pretty impressive that phone brought that type of capability back then, right? I do think this in and of itself was a very, very interesting thing. And I do think this iPhone deserves some credit for bringing that type of capability. The iPhone 16, on the other hand, is basically giving you this different type of lens. It's giving you this dual camera setup, wide, ultra wide. You can do 4K at 60 on the front side and the back side of that camera. And you're getting 2x zoom, which basically allows you to zoom in like 10x or 10 times. which is very, very nice to have. Definitely with the camera lens like that, that is by far one of the better assets going on for that type of device. So in my personal opinion, when you're looking at a phone like that, I do think that is a very, very nice and cool thing going on for that type of device. So although it's not perfect, I still give the iPhone, I still give this iPhone 16 a lot of credit for being a better phone here. But I also give the iPhone, I give the iPhone 6S a lot of credit for being the first iPhone to basically bring that 4K at, the 4K capability. So that is without a doubt another big thing going on for that phone as well. Now, when it comes down to software longevity, this one is pretty easy. The iPhone 6S is already pretty much done getting software updates. So it's been done getting software updates for a very long period of time. So from that side as well, that's just one of those things where you're going to look at and be like, well, it doesn't really, once again, make a lot of sense to go and get a device like that because it's already outdated. So the 6S is, you could say a lot about that phone. Unfortunately, it just doesn't make a lot of sense to buy it because you're already buying a phone that's already outdated with software. So that is, once again, like I said before, one of those big things to keep in mind. But with that being said, the iPhone 16 is probably going to be the longer lasting phone here in almost every single way you can imagine, which is something that's really, really nice. Being able to go through and buy a phone like the iPhone 6S that's going to be giving you that type of capability, I love it. And that is without a doubt a very, very nice thing going on for that phone. When it comes down to battery life as well, this is without a doubt one of the most important things to kind of keep in mind here. Because as you could probably imagine in almost every single way, a phone like the iPhone 6S, it's just just doesn't really make a lot of sense to go ahead and buy anymore in my personal opinion. And the main reason for this is because a device like that, when you kind of take a look at it, it's just going to be one of those phones that's, the battery life's not going to be good. The performance isn't good. That thing was giving you that, older styling of chipset. It was the Apple A9 chip inside with 2 gigabytes of RAM. The first iPhone to actually bring 2 gigabytes of RAM at the time. But once again, this is one of those devices that you'll basically look at and, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense to go ahead and buy because it is an already outdated device in every single way you can imagine. So that is somewhat the problem that we're kind of in with this type of device, right? Like I look at something like the iPhone 16, and this is a way faster phone with the Apple A18 chip, Apple Intelligence, Dynamic Island, way better display, way better everything going on for the iPhone 16. There really isn't any single area where I could look at something like a phone like the iPhone 16 and think that it is the better device in any way possible. The 6S and think that it's the worst device. The 16 is a way better phone, in every single way you can imagine. And that is the way I'd recommend a majority of people to kind of go through and basically pick up a device. I'd recommend for them to basically go through and buy one of those types of phones rather than buying something like an iPhone, 6S. Like I said, it just doesn't make any sense to go buy something like a 6S anymore. You're much better off buying something like an iPhone 16, an iPhone 15, 14, iPhone 13, 11, 12, like any of those iPhones are better than the iPhone 6S. But the 6S did bring a lot of stuff to the table. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there for the most part. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that will mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.